That's a question. We will answer that question first. What's the difference between dukkha and dukkharisati? The Lord Buddha has taught us one dukkha, and people know the other one. This is the essence. If we can't differentiate this, you can't attain Nibbana. If you can't differentiate this, if you can't understand the difference between these two, you won't be able to attain Nibbana. That's the first thing. You should understand that what is the dukkha which the Lord Buddha has taught us. Everybody is suffering. Dukkha means suffering. But the Lord Buddha didn't talk about that suffering. He wanted us to understand suffering. You all can feel suffering. That's why you always say that I'm suffering, I'm suffering. You all can feel it. But the Lord Buddha asks us to understand suffering. If you can understand suffering, that's the suffering which Lord Buddha has taught us. If you can understand the suffering, then if you want to understand the suffering, you can't feel it, you need to understand that. If you need to understand, that should be a wisdom. Then the dukkha is a wisdom you need to achieve. That's not a pain. When you're having a mental pain or a physical pain, you always think that you are suffering. But you can't understand that suffering. You can only feel it. Even animal can do that. Everyone can feel it. But animals can't understand suffering. Therefore, you should be able to understand suffering. You all should understand suffering. Let's talk about that. Before you understand that, you need to understand the primary principle of Buddhism, the theory of cause and effect. If you can understand that, then you will be able to understand suffering. If I say jati, I use a Pali word, jati, equivalent to suffering. Jati. But to understand jati, you should understand the theory of cause and effect. The world behaves according to that effect, according to that theory. If you take the world, if you take any part of the world, anything, everything is an effect. First of all, you should understand that. If you don't understand that, then you may think that the world is an entity. Actually, you should get a noble view. The noble view is everything is an effect. But there is a wrong view also. The wrong view is everything is an entity. Most people believe that everything is an entity. Therefore, they try to maintain it. When you feel that everything is an entity, when you feel that you are an entity, then you try to maintain it. When you feel your existence means you feel that you are an entity. Then when you feel that, you need to maintain it, and you will be afraid of losing it, afraid of changing it. If you believe that your face is an entity, then you need to keep the face as it is. Then you have to work hard. You have to think about that. You have to do something, do anything to protect the face, because you have a face which is an entity. But if you think that this face is an effect, then you know that it's not a fixed thing. It's not a fixed, it's not a fixed object. It's an effect. When the causes come together, effect is created. Effect is not a fixed object. Then you don't have to maintain that. Even if you want to maintain, then you can add causes. You don't have to worry about the effect. But the problem is, you got a wrong view. When you got a wrong view, you always expect everything to be an entity. You mean your mind. The mind, I would say, the mind always expects everything to be an entity. If you ask from the mind, what's wrong with you? That's wrong with the mind. We need to cleanse the mind. We need to cleanse the mind means we need to change its view. That's why, first of all, you should listen to the Dhamma. Dhamma means the Lord Buddha's doctrine. When you listen to the Lord Buddha's doctrine, you will understand the theory of cause and effect. That's the heart, that's the core. When you understand the theory of cause and effect, then you will realize that nothing is fixed in this world. Everything is an effect. When causes come together, an effect appears. It's not fixed. Therefore, you won't try to fix it if you have a proper understanding about that. But if you believe that everything is an entity, then you have to work hard. You have to bend over backwards to maintain that. That's what people do when you make a house. You strongly believe that it's an entity. Therefore, you try to maintain it. To maintain that, you have to work hard. That's what happened to everyone. They can't give anything up. Because they have something in their mind. When you build a house, you have something in your mind. Something means you have a different house in your mind. That's the entity. But you have made something, but it's not an entity. It's not an entity, it's an effect, because you know that you didn't build a house. Have you built a house? No. You lay bricks. When you lay bricks, eventually the house appears. That's what happened, if you can recall it. Then, if you take a house, it's an effect. It's not an entity. But the problem is, in your mind, the mind creates an entity. Because the mind thinks that everything is an entity. The mind always works with that wrong view. Therefore, the mind always wants to see entities. But we can't make entities. The theory of cause and effect is a universal law. That's how the universe is created. That's why you can't find your past. In the past, we had this. We can say that we had this. Now we are having this. But before, what happened to the past object? If we believe that this is an entity, then this should be in the past also. You go back to the past, then you will find it. That's why people want to do time traveling. Some people strongly believe that. They think that they can travel through time. According to their knowledge, according to their belief, then if you go back to the past, then you will meet this. And you will meet your past person. That's how they believe, because they think that everything is an entity. That's why they have all these things in their mind. That's why they want to check everything. They want to search for everything. Because they strongly believe that everything is an entity. That's why they want to maintain. That's why they want to keep things as it is. That's why they fight for it. They are afraid. They get frightened when they feel that everything is an entity, when they feel that they are their body. Some people believe that they have a soul. When they have a soul, then they had protected. That's what they do. Now, if I tell you that you will go to hell, then you will try to protect your soul. Then you will ask, why? What should I do? Because you want to protect your soul. Because if you really believe that you have a soul, then you will do anything to protect it. That's what happened. That's why people earn merits. Because they want to go to heaven. They want to go to heaven. They want their soul to be in heaven. Because they strongly believe that there is a soul which is fixed one. Which is a fixed one. There's a soul. Because they don't understand the theory of cause and effect. If you can understand the theory of cause and effect, then you can apply it to everything in the world. If you strongly believe in science, then you can apply. You can apply the theory of cause and effect, and you will check that. You will understand that. You will realize the world. Everything happens like that. What happened to the light? You can see the light energy comes from the bulb. If we believe that light energy comes from the bulb and light energy is this color, still we believe that it's an entity. That's why people name energies: electric energy, kinetic energy, potential energy, nuclear energy, many types of energy. Because they believe that energy is also an entity. They can't come out of that. If they want to come out of that, they should learn the theory of cause and effect. They should study it. They should understand it. When they understand it, their wrong view will disappear. When the noble view comes to the mind, when the noble view comes to the mind, then the wrong view will disappear. But if you live with that, if the mind lives with wrong view, then it has to suffer, because it always feels that it's an entity. That's why you always feel your existence. You always sense your existence. Actually, you don't feel anything. The mind feels that it's a creature, it's a being, it's a human. The mind. But the mind is a process of energy. The mind doesn't know about it. Because the mind always feels its existence. That's why you strongly believe that you are a human being. You are an entity. That's why you try to behave like a human being. But the problem is, if you are a mind, how should you behave? If you are a mind, how should you behave? But if you are a human being, you should behave like this. If you are an animal, you should behave like that. But if you are a mind, it's a process. It's a process of energy. If it is a process of energy, it should behave like a process of energy. But the problem is, it can't behave like that because it always feels that it's an entity. Try to understand this. If you believe that something is an entity, you have to put your effort to maintain it. Before that, you get frightened when you feel that sense, when you sense it, when you feel that sensation, you try to protect it. And you always know that you will lose that. If it is an entity, you will lose it. The thing is, the mind always creates something in your mind with the wrong view it had. If you make a house, if you build a house, then the mind has a different house. And the mind wants to maintain the house which is built according to the house which is created in the mind. The house which is created in the mind is fixed. It's an entity. That's how the mind feels. But the house which is built in the world, in physically, is not an entity. We all know that. It's not an entity, it's an effect. That's why it decays. If something is an effect, it can decay. But the thing is, we can't use the word decay, because if we use the word decay, then you may feel that it's a fixed thing and it starts to decay. Actually, I can't use any worldly words to explain Buddhism. If I use any word, that gives you a wrong view. If I say decay, that's not a word in Buddhism. Decay. But people use that. People think that everything decays. That's Buddhism. But the Buddha said, nothing is there to decay. That's the doctrine you should understand. Nothing is there to decay. If it is an entity, of course, there's something to decay, because that entity, there is something to decay. But if it is an effect, how the decay occurs? If it is an effect. To understand that, we need to understand about the effect. When causes come together, an effect is created. That effect is not a fixed object. It is there. We can't say that it is created. It is an effect. That's the only word I can use. It's an effect. If we use two colors, if you mix two colors, then you will see the third one. But you didn't add the third one. You added only two colors. But the third one appears. Third one is created, but it's an effect. It's not the third one. It's an effect. If you want to destroy it, what should you do? You need to take the causes out. Then the effect disappears. Your body is an effect. If we take all the atoms out from the body, what will happen? It disappears. The chair is an effect. If we take all the atoms, it disappears. But the body is not atoms. The body is, we can't say that the body is made out of atoms. Then if we say, this is too deep, I'm telling you, try to understand that. One day you will understand. When you understand that, then you can eradicate suffering totally. If these words are new, or actually these words are not new to you, but this concept is very new. This concept is very new. Therefore, the word I use is not the appropriate word to explain Buddhism. Then how can I learn that? How can I learn some words? We don't have words. Words are the greatest barrier you have to attain Nibbana. Because whatever the word I use, it will be a worldly word. It explains the world. It doesn't explain Buddhism. It doesn't explain the doctrine of the Buddha. Let's try. We can't say that the body is made of atoms. Then if we say that the body is made out of atoms or made of atoms, then there are two things: the body and atoms. If you believe that you have a body and it is made of atoms, then you're not talking about Buddhism. You can talk about atoms in this case, but when it comes to atoms, then again you can't use that word. If you talk about the body, we can say that body is made of atoms. We can say that the body is an effect of atoms. When atoms come together, it creates an effect. That effect is the body. Then if you want to change this effect, what should you do? If you want to change this effect, then you can change its causes, which means you can change atoms. That's what you do. If you want to change the shape of this body, you can eat more or you can stop eating. When you eat more, you add more atoms to the body. When you stop eating, so you use energy from the body. When you use energy from the body, atoms move away from the body, out of the body, with your breath, as carbon dioxide and water. Then you will lose your weight. But you believe that you lost your weight because you strongly believe that you had a body. If you don't understand that part, that your mind is so ignorant about it, and your mind believes that everything is an entity, and your mind, or inside the mind, the entity is created. Or I would say the mind becomes an entity. If you talk about the house, which we talk about previously, then the mind has an entity in it. Because the mind feels that the house is an entity. But we know that the outside house is not, the physical house is not an entity. But when the mind thinks about the house, when the mind perceives about the house, it always perceives as an entity. When it perceives as an entity, the mind is afraid of losing it because it's an entity. I'm not talking about the physical house. The mind perceives the physical house as an entity. That means the mind can't see the physical house. If we take an example, there's a boy, but due to some reason, you always see a girl out of him. Then can you see the boy? You always perceive a boy as a girl. Then can you see a boy? You are looking at him, but you perceive a girl out of him. Then you can't see the world. You can't see a boy anymore. If something happened to your mind, and now mind perceives all boys as girls. If the mind perceives everything as entities, then can the mind see or perceive a physical house or physical object as it is? That's what happened to the mind. When it perceives, it always perceives them as an entity. Therefore, it has a fear of decaying it. It has a fear of losing it. It has a fear of protecting it. How can it come out of that? It's a tragedy. It's a trap, I'm telling you. That's why the mind is always suffering. Whatever you do, whatever the mind perceives, it has to suffer. It is suffering. Think about anything, then you will suffer. That's why people can feel that suffering. People can feel that pain, that mental pain, which is called suffering. But they don't know the reason. And they try to achieve happiness because they are suffering. They always suffer. Therefore, they want to achieve happiness. They are vexed. That's why they want to earn happiness. There is no such thing called happiness in this world, ladies and gentlemen. You haven't felt it yet. If you can eradicate vexation from your mind, that's called happiness. But you use many words: joy, happiness, pleasure, many things, many words. You can't earn happiness. You can't achieve happiness. What you can do is you can eradicate vexation. That's why the Buddha taught us to eradicate vexation. He didn't talk about happiness. That's why people always believe that Buddhism is a negative religion, because they believe that the Lord Buddha has taught us about the negativity, this suffering. This world is full of suffering. Yes, the Buddha said that. Actually, what he said is the world is on the suffering, which means when suffering is created, but the problem is, now if you take it as that pain, when the suffering is created, the world is created. If I say that, and if you take the other meaning, then you might say, what? But take the Lord Buddha's meaning. When the jati is created, the world is created. That world is created in your mind. This world is created in your mind, ladies and gentlemen, if you believe it or not. Whether you believe it or not, this world is created in your mind. But I'm not saying that these 4 basic elements are created in your mind. If the 4 basic elements are created in your mind must be very heavy. Four basic elements are there. But the color is created in your mind. The smell is created in your mind. Sound is created in your mind. Whatever you perceive is created in your mind. That means the world you see, the world you perceive is created in your mind. Now you all are in this sermon hall. But the problem is, if you don't understand the Dhamma, you may think that there's a sermon hall, now the devotees, everyone is here, and I'm also here. And you strongly believe that everybody can see the preacher because you can see. You believe that you can see the preacher. And because of the wrong view you had, the mind believes that what you see is in physical world. You can see these colors. You can hear the sound. Then you strongly believe that if you don't contemplate the Dhamma, if you don't have good understanding about the Dhamma, you always feel that this preacher exists. These colors exist. The preacher exists and these colors exist. And the sound exists. That's why everyone can hear. That's why everyone can see. How do you know that everyone can see? You can see. Tell me about the color of this light. This has yellow color. Then you might say that this is yellow color. And you might say that this is yellow color, and you might think that others also see the yellow color because you believe that yellow color is in the light, in the bulb. That's how the ignorant mind perceives things. Because it believes that everything is an entity. If this bulb is an entity, you can see. That's how it believes. I can see that. If I can see, everyone can see. That's how the mind believes. But if you have understood the Dhamma, you should know that all the colors, all the sound, every sensation is created in your mind. Therefore, if you see the audience, actually the audience is created in your mind. If someone sees the audience, then again, that audience is created in his mind. But both of them believe that each can see the audience. But how do you know that I can perceive this light, this bulb, as yellow color? How do you know that? But without the Dhamma, without contemplating the Dhamma, without understanding the Dhamma, without being mindful, how do you perceive this? How do you think? Tell me the truth. Do you perceive this as an effect which is created in your mind? You can see it, but I don't know about others. Or how do you feel? Most of the time, you feel that the bulb exists here. Therefore, everyone can see. It's not the way. If you want to practice mindful awareness, this is what you need to do. Whatever you have studied, you have heard about the Lord Buddha's doctrine, you need to apply it. When you apply it, if you are conscious enough to apply the Dhamma, that's called mindful awareness. That means if you get the right view, now you need to use the right view. The right view is a wisdom. If you get that wisdom, now you can apply it. When you apply it, you can do the samma sati, which is called mindful awareness. You don't have to practice mindfulness. When you practice mindfulness, you can say that this is yellow, 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 yellow. Now yellow color is full of your mind. It is in your mind fully. By practicing that, what would you achieve? If you got the wisdom by listening to the Dhamma, that is called noble view, then you need to apply it. You need to conjugate them, the mind and the Dhamma. When you try to do that, you practice the samma sati. Otherwise, you will perceive everything is an entity. When you perceive everything is an entity, then you will suffer. No one can stop. Suffering is created in your mind. How can we stop that? The mind has to stop it. To stop that, mind has to get the wisdom. That's why I told you this is the only way to achieve someone's salvation. This is the only way. Try to understand that. You can try many things. You have been trying. I don't have to teach you. I don't have to teach grandmother to suck eggs. You also know this. Because you have been trying. But if you want to achieve your salvation, you should understand the path. There's a path. First of all, you should get the wisdom. When you get the wisdom, you will understand about the theory of cause and effect thoroughly. Then when you practice, you can practice the mindful awareness. That means you always try to see the world through the Dhamma. When you practice the mindful awareness, then you will get the samadhi, concentration. But I can't say that word even. I can't say even that word because when I say concentration, that's what is the other word? For samadhi. I will explain samadhi. Then you will find a word for that. Samadhi means, first of all, you should get the samma ditti, which means noble view. You should get that wisdom, the initial wisdom. When you are with the initial wisdom, now you can see the world, you can perceive the world according to the wisdom you have achieved. When you try to do so, that's called mindful awareness, which means samma sati. But when you do that, that wisdom and your mind will be conjugated. That means the mind uses the wisdom you have achieved to perceive the world. Now also, you have a wisdom, but that wisdom is a worldly wisdom. Therefore, when you perceive things as an entity. It happens due to ignorance, due to wrong view. Why should I say wrong view? Because we got the right view. Before I have come across the Lord Buddha's Dhamma, I had only one view. That's everything is an entity. After I got the Dhamma, then I had two views. One is wrong view, the other one is right view, which is noble view. To get the noble view, not to get the wisdom, then you need to listen to the Dhamma. That's the only way you can achieve. You need to listen to a person who have achieved that wisdom. Actually, you have to be a successor. You can't just read a book and get the wisdom. You have to take it from your teacher. Once you have taken it from your teacher, now you have the wisdom. Now you start to apply it. When you start to apply it, then you try to see the world with the Dhamma, with the wisdom you have achieved. When you try to do that, that's called Samma Sati. When you do that, your mind and the Dhamma and the wisdom you have achieved will be conjugated, and the mind will use the wisdom to see the world, like you use a pair of spectacles to see the world. If you can't see properly, then you need a pair of spectacles to see the world. If you use a blue color pair of spectacles, then you will see the world in blue. That means you can't see the world as it is. If you want to see the world as it is, then you have to remove your pair of spectacles. If you had the wrong view, then you used it to see the world. That's how you means the mind perceived things, perceive the world as entities. Try to understand this. This is not the problem of the mind. This is a problem of ignorance. Or I would say wisdom. That means you don't have the wisdom, the mind, not you. If I say you don't have the wisdom, then you might get angry with me because you maintain an entity. Inside your mind, it says, I am intelligent. Why should you say that I'm ignorant? Because the mind always maintains its entity. The mind can't come out of this. It is trapped. If you go back to that, the mind perceived the world with the wrong view, therefore it perceives, or it perceived everything as an entity. But if you wear a new pair of spectacles, which means the right view, which means the noble view, then the mind will use it to see the world. Then the mind will perceive everything is an effect. That's what you need to do. You don't have to do anything to your mind. Your mind is okay. Don't ever think that your mind is defiled. Actually, what happens is the mind is also a process, and defilements also a process. Whatever you want to stop, you can stop. If you want to stop defilements, then First of all, you should believe that defilements are also a process. If defilements are created, not defilements are fallen from the sky. It is created, it has a process. Then, if you can cease the process, defilement, I can't say that defilement will be destroyed. To destroy, there were not any defilements, fixed defilements. There was a process. If you can cease the process, then it won't create or it won't be created. If the defilement or if the process of the defilement is ceased, then the process of the mind will be there. We had two processes, the process of the mind and the process of defilements. If you don't want defilements, then you can cease that. As well as if you don't want the mind, then you can cease that either. Whatever you want, you can do that if you can understand the doctrine of the Lord Buddha. We are suffering due to defilements. Therefore, we need to cease the process of defilement. That's why the Lord Buddha taught us how to eradicate attachment, how to eradicate ignorance. To eradicate ignorance, you should be enlightened. That's why you need the wisdom. Therefore, try to apply the Dhamma, try to apply the wisdom, try to see the world with the wisdom. Because if the mind wants to perceive something, it always needs a view. Without a view, the mind can't perceive. Because the mind is a process, it is brand new all the time. If you take a specific time, the mind is created brand newly. Therefore, it doesn't have any knowledge to perceive. Therefore, it has to go back to its memory and take a view from that. There are two main views. After that, there are many views, a billion, trillion views. But there are two main views. One is Sammaditthi, the other one is Mithyaditthi, Michaditti. You need to treat your parents well. That's also a view. But it's not a main view. There are two main views. One is Mithyaditthi. Michaditti means the mind believes that everything is an entity. Sammaditthi is the mind believes that everything is an effect. If you want to achieve Sammaditthi, then you should understand the theory of cause and effect. The theory of cause and effect is not a Lord Buddha's invention. The Lord Buddha has discovered it. The Lord Buddha has discovered the nature of nature. The nature of nature is the theory of cause and effect. That's why we can use the theory of cause and effect to explain everything. According to my knowledge, that's the theory of everything. That explains everything, ladies and gentlemen. That explains everything. Therefore, try to get the wisdom. If you have gotten the wisdom, now try to apply it. Try to apply, and Like you are using your pair of spectacles to see the world, use the wisdom to see the world. Then you will see the world. That's why when you have achieved samadhi, then you will realize the world. That's called yatha bhuta jnana darshane. In Pali terms, that means you will see the reality of the world. But the problem is now don't think that, oh, now also I see the reality. Look, this is a girl. But don't forget that he's a boy. Can you remember the example we got? He's a boy. Why you always perceive that he's a girl. How can I prove it to you? How actually I can prove it to you by doing something, but how can you prove it to yourself? Because you always perceive this. You have only one mind. At a time, one process is processed. Only one process. That means at a time, only one mind is created. That mind perceives that boy as a girl. Then how can the same mind correct it? Therefore, you always believe that everything is an entity unless you have understood the Dhamma. But if you believe that everything is an entity, then you have to suffer. It will be an endless suffering. If you have any other methods, feel free to apply and say, I strongly believe that this is the only way. And the Lord Buddha has taught us this is the only way. Ekaya noyam bhikkhave maggo sattanam visuddhya. There is only one path to achieve someone's salvation. There's only one path. There are many paths to stay in the world. But if you want to go beyond the world, if you want to win the world, if you want to win the world, if you want to conquer the world, actually you need a weapon. That weapon is the theory of everything. If you have the theory of everything, if you have a proper understanding about the theory of everything, then you will definitely conquer the world and you will win forever. Whoever fight with other countries, other people, other families, they won't win. They will fail and they will lose. You can conquer the world by conquering yourself, because the world is created within you. What you perceive is created within you. If you want to win the world, you have to win yourself. May the blessings of the Noble Triple Gem be with you all. Thank you.